So good. Am I there now? Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you to another exciting session of the FM Lunch Hour. Today, Thursday, the 21st of December. My name is Paul Erubami, and I am the Managing Director, CEO of Max-Migold Limited. I'm also the President of the Association of Facility Management Practitioners Nigeria. This series has been running since the early part of the year, and we hope to continue it. And I've been hearing some testimonials from people who have been following this session. I'm glad to hear your comments. I'm glad to hear the impact it's making in your lives and your career. I would appreciate it if you can as well share some of your thoughts on our platforms, on our social media platforms, so that others will get to learn from your experiences. The last couple of weeks have been very exciting for us at Max-Migold. If you follow us, you would know that we had 2 days of free training on the 8th and 9th of December. And on the 16th, we had the grand event of the year, the annual graduation ceremony of our FM Mastercraft Diploma program. And that was an exciting time for us. We graduated almost 160 people, precisely 158 people in this year's class of 2023. And this has been the biggest graduation group we've ever had. So if you go to our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, if you're part of our WhatsApp group, you'll be able to see live recording of the sessions that we've had. They are all publicly available. You can learn a lot, and you can get to meet all the people that were part of these sessions. So today we're going to be looking at a very important topic. But before I get into today's topic, I want to make some announcements. About what's coming in the new year. As we get into the new year, we plan to start the FM Mastercraft 20, which is the 20th edition of the FM Mastercraft that has already graduated about 1,000 people in the last few years. And we hope to have, you there. Many people have been looking forward to a time when they'll be able to join the FM diploma. We are in very trying times, so you find that the cost of everything is moving up. The FM diploma, with all its values, is basically trying to keep pace with what's happening in the economy. To cushion the impact or the effects of this continuous rise in costs, we have put in place several measures and to ensure that everyone can participate. We have up to 6 months spread in the payment arrangement. So all you need to do is just go ahead and sign up. For as little as 84,000 a month, you can be on the virtual program, and for 100,000 a month, you can be on the physical program, which means you get to come to classes every Saturday, be taught by lecturers, network with your colleagues, and just pay 100,000 for 6 months, and you're done with payments. So that's the exciting news we have for you. One other news we have for you today is that the class, which should have started on the 8th of January, due to popular demand, many people have asked to, uh, you know, be allowed to join, unable to meet their commitments by 8th of January. The class will now be starting on the 29th of January. So we're looking forward to a lot more of you, planning your 2024 on a very high note, being able to join the program. But the uh, discounts we've given out between now and the 31st of December, for those who are paying outright, will get 100,000 naira off uh, the tuition fee that's quoted on the website promo.facilitymanagementcourses.com. And also, those who pay before the January 8th deadline for early bird payments will get 10% off their payments. So it's either you can take advantage of the 100,000 off now between now and December 31st, or if you can't, probably you're waiting for some inflows in early January, then take advantage of the 10% discount. After that, between the 8th and the 29th, it will be the full fee or the flexible payment arrangement that are available for you. So we look forward to seeing everybody on the program. All right, so give me a moment. Let me find how to share my slides. Now, this is a new platform I'm using for the first time. Okay. There's nowhere to share slides. All right, so what I'll just do then is to I can share slides. Okay. All right. So I know that every one of us have been eager to look at the, work with me on the topic for today, personal and professional development. You have gone through the year, and you can sit back at the end of the year and look back at your experiences. Much of the experiences you've had would be good, pleasant ones. Everyone has their moments. You know, even if every day is not your day, there will be days that are yours. You would also have some experiences that are on the other end of the spectrum, sad, not so memorable experiences, with life and with work and everything. And then there are just the usual, the in between days, the routines um, that runs from day to day. In all of this, when doing an evaluation of where you are, how you've gotten to where you are now from the beginning of the year to date, uh, you might be able to ascribe some of your accomplishments, some of your progress to hard work, to certain skills you were able to display, to God Almighty for His grace and His mercies, to luck for some people. Um, and then for many people, uh, they tend to be able to associate most of the downsides, the disadvantageous moments they had, the things that were not so pleasant or profitable for them through the year, on circumstances that are external to them, right? So it's easy to blame it on people, bosses, company policy, toxic environment, like we always say in the work environment. Oh, it's so toxic, I couldn't, blah, 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 right? Lack of training, lack of, all kinds of things that you can blame it on, even the economy and the government. And so uh, there's often that tendency to want to abdicate that sense of responsibility or accountability for when things do not go well with you. In today's session, uh, personal and professional development, we'll be looking at certain things that we can control that can lead us to more positive outcomes than negative outcomes. We'll be looking at things that you can think back on and ask yourself, did I take that decision correctly? Is there something I could have done better or differently on in this scenario or that scenario that I went through? And as you're looking back to your range of activities and progress from January to date, uh, you're also trying to make plans for next year. I'm getting into the new year in a matter of days, and I will want to have set certain goals. I want to achieve certain things. I want to be a certain way in my behavior, character, in my relationships with others. I will want to learn and acquire, be wiser in this area or that area. So this lesson is really going to it's really going to encapsulate all of that, um, so that we know how we're actually getting from one stage to another in our lives. There are so many people that have not had uh, the chance or not really given a thought to these kind of skills and traits and behaviors training, and they have lived their lives, from year to year, grown old, not changing, not improving, not growing, because they never took time to look inwards and ask these kind of questions that we're going to be doing in today's class. So, we want to look at personal development. What are the things you need to improve yourself? Then we'll look at professional development. Uh, you know, there are hard skills, there are soft skills. Uh, the work that I do, the skills I need to deliver on the jobs that I do are the hard skills. Do I have them? What are my gaps? The skills I need to relate with people are the soft skills. I can't deliver on my job if I don't know how to relate with people. So that's why when we talk about aptitude versus attitude, we often give higher weight to aptitude, which is the skills you need to get your job done, the hard skills, and often relegate soft skills, emotional intelligence, and all of those skills that has to do with relationships and managing people, and that keeps us down for too long. So in today's session, we're going to be looking at a combination of factors that can help us elevate ourselves, both professionally and personally. All right, so it's year end in a few days. No better time to take stock of how much you have grown this year. Make plans for personal improvement and professional development for the next year. Okay, so the skills to do comes out of doing. That's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. So let's start with personal development. You want to set yourself some goals. Goals are motivating factors by themselves. If you don't set goals and you drift from day to day, you probably don't have the motivation to move, to do something better or differently. Okay. So you set yourself some goals. Tell yourself what you want to be able to achieve, accomplish, not just for yourself, because sometimes we get it all twisted and wrong. That we set goals for what we want to earn, acquire for ourselves, uh, and then we are not part of any cause, any community, any team, any organization. We're not really committed to anything other than ourselves. Okay, when you're setting goals for yourself, let those goals also include, your wider, your narrow and wider network. Prioritize the goals, put them in a ranking order, uh, put set some deadlines for when these goals will be achieved, recognize threats and opportunities, think through. I have a plan to achieve the goal. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this. But what can threaten my ability to do what I should do to be able to achieve the goals, right? So because sometimes you set to do what you intend to do, that's far enough in planning. But if you don't plan, what I call the abnormal plan, uh, recognizing the kind of risk, threats, and opportunities that are external to what you have planned, that you might just be, like an ostrich burying the head in the sand. Okay, and then begin to work on your skill to increase your knowledge, uh, tap into your support network, people around you, your work colleagues, your superiors, your family, trainers, consultants you worked with, just a network of people. You cannot make progress in isolation. Well, you can make, but very little progress in isolation. Uh, Most of the progress you will make in life will depend on the kind of network that you have. Okay, so um, tap into that, and then as you step into the new year and you have your goals set, uh, don't wait for the deadline you set to achieve them to arrive before you tell yourself, have I done it or not? It's not an in or out situation. There are certain steps, milestones that you must take to get to that point where you can now say, did I make it? Did I not? Right? So measure your progress on an ongoing basis. I dare say weekly, because even in months lost, where you didn't do anything that positively adds or moves you in direction of your goal, it's a huge loss. So don't do that. Have weekly check-ins on your progress. All right. So as you make plans, as you put out these projections, as you start working, to achieve your goals, think about what can really motivate you from inside. Okay, some of the motivations we have are external: our friends' success, our family expectations, our work colleagues and supervisors, targets set for us. They can motivate us, right? But the things that will motivate you that are internal to you moving up the ladder are your personal values. Okay, uh, your social values, your spiritual values, your emotional value, your physical values. Identify areas where you would like to improve in each of these areas, because there's always that gap between what your inner values are and what you're actually doing. So start closing that gap to be as close as possible to your value. Okay, so if you have a coach, if you have family members, colleagues that you can work with, walk through that process of making improvements. Okay, and there are exercises, just the way you have physical exercises that will keep your body strong and physically fit. There are exercises that you need to deploy in your social, spiritual, emotional um, lives as well to keep you in top shape. So we're going to look at certain soft skills, certain soft skills that helps you achieve your goals. Okay, soft skills are the personal attributes that allows us to effectively relate to others. They enhance our personal interactions and lead to greater job performance and satisfaction. Okay, some examples of soft skills: being able to communicate effectively, being able to understand people from their own standpoints. And this is often very difficult. Empathy. Empathy is a huge problem in the workplace. We tend to form a rigid persona, a personality of a description of who we are. We project that on the world, and we are not looking at how our personality is affecting the personalities of others around us. So when people are talking or exchanging information with us, we use a paradigm of our own personality, our own worldview to judge, right? Without thinking of being in that person's perspective. And often issues arise: conflicts, misunderstandings, poor performance, poor productivity, lack of cooperation, lack of unity, outright breakdown of peace, law, and order. They can all come out of justice and rights. You are right, and so we are both wrong, situation. And then networking. Uh, your net worth will grow according to how your network grows, right? So you really can't grow uh, all of this in achieving all of these goals professionally without looking at how to tap into a network of resources and opportunities. And that's a skill that many people lack today, and they think, "Oh, I can't learn it. It's something that I was born this way." It's self-confidence. You know, it's almost lost in many people. They can do a lot of things, but they don't have the confidence to express it, so they don't get rewarded um, for being able to do those things because they don't even get a chance to do it. Okay, so let's start with that part of the soft skills that has to do with empathy, emotional intelligence that comes out of your being able to understand people, understand how to relate. You don't just pop out anything the way it comes to your mind. That's immaturity. Some people tell you, "Oh, is it true? The truth is hard to bear, so I just say it the way it is." Life does not work that way. There are some that they're in situations where they should speak out, they will not speak out. They will bottle it in until it blows up like a volcano inside. There are some that they're in situations where they are not supposed to talk at all, but because they can't help the immature urge to talk and react and respond to everything, they just keep popping out comments. Okay? Uh, before you speak, before you engage, before you interact, ask yourself, how does this portray me? Ask yourself again, how does it affect the person I'm interacting or exchanging with? How will this be perceived by other onlookers or third parties if this interaction is brought to the open? Just by thinking about these three questions, you will tend to manage better how you express. You will still express yourself. You will still express yourself, but you will learn to use certain words, learn to use certain uh, tone of voice, the volume of your voice. You will tend to package your emotions in such a way that when you speak, you will sound like a wise person. And that's because you have self awareness. You know that the way you speak, the way you act, the way you do things has a certain effect on others. That is social awareness. So because I'm conscious of myself and I'm able to moderate how I present myself, and I'm also conscious of how I affect those around me, that's social awareness, right? I'm also trying to gauge the responses I'm getting from those around me. And all of this helps me to manage relationships better. All right. So the soft side, people, relationships, I can tell you that's far more important than any other skill you can acquire. I tell facility managers, if people don't like you, it is your fault, especially if your bosses don't like you, or even if your subordinates or your colleagues don't like you, it's always your fault. Too many people want to have all kinds of justification or rationalization because of who I am. They don't like me because of this or that. No, you can moderate whatever negative vibes that you are meeting. All right, so let's talk about professionalism. Some of us just think that uh, we can bring our native self to every workplace and do the work the way we like. Some are achieving the job's goals in terms of delivering the output of the work. Some are not, but they still, want to portray themselves the way they are, chopping themselves recklessly as the way they feel. Uh, the areas of professionalism I want to talk about is simply the ability to conduct yourself with responsibility, integrity, accountability, and excellence. You have to be able to um, communicate with others in such a way that you are productive, they too are productive. Let's start from the basics. basic punctualism, punctuality. I want to come to your work is 8 o'clock, your work is 9 o'clock, and you always manage to come 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, 20 minutes late. You always have a reason not to be there when you are expected to be there. You always have that. I work all night, for example, all kinds of excuses why you should be given some kind of exception. Sometimes it eats into the culture within the team that it becomes normal that, oh, he won't be there by 10. Don't worry, take your time. Let's go about 10:30 or 10:15. That's about the time he'll be coming. Or we'll just get there before he comes at 10:20. You are now known for being a late comer. You set appointments and people no longer expect you to be on time. That is death to professionalism for you. You are gone, you are written off. No matter how much you know, no matter how skilled you are on the job, people are only putting up with you at that point. Next, speaking clearly and politely to colleagues, customers, and clients. Shouting, speaking in a rash tone, or just being impolite in your choice of words are not professional. Sometimes we get uh, heated disagreement, like really, really disagreeing about a work, a topic or something that has to do with personality clashes in the workplace. Even in the midst of that, high-pitched environment, you are still required to speak clearly and politely to colleagues, customers, and clients. I know this is difficult. Most of us find justifications to lose our cool, but it's not cool to lose your cool. Okay? And then the third level I want to talk about in professionalism is striving to meet high standards. Some of us are just used to getting things done in a certain local, this is how we do it way. You've done the same thing again and again and again. You've encountered the same set of problems, the kinds of issues that crop up from that particular way of doing it, but you just still keep doing it the same way. You almost can't help yourself when it comes to doing things better. Sometimes you are even resisting a change for a better way to do it. Professionalism requires that you strive to meet higher and higher standards. So these traits that I've talked about, both the emotional intelligence aspects, the soft skills, professionalism skills that I've talked about. Do you think that some people are born with them and others are not born with them, and as such, you can't do anything about it if you are not born with certain traits? There used to be a very old school, ideology that makes people believe that there was a certain destiny for them. There was a certain way they had to do things that they cannot control or they can't manage themselves. These are impulses that are inborn. We call them inborn traits. So it's just your lot in life. That is so far from the truth. Every trait that is desirable to move you up can be learned. You just need to start practicing them. After you have learned it, start practicing them. Sometimes you have to develop certain cues, uh, certain habits, certain activities that can prompt you, like prompts in your life. Tapping yourself, for example, when you catch yourself doing something, you say, I want to change this habit. Just tap yourself, and it gives you a reminder. Just stopping in the middle of a statement, and or walking away, for example, to go and rethink your mood and see if you can become more self-aware of who you are and what you are doing at that moment. So you begin to practice these types of activities that moves you away from the things that you told yourself you would not do, because If you don't work on them, you're only going to, leave yourself to that conclusion that you couldn't have done anything about it. Everyone can do anything about what happens in their lives. Okay. All right. I talked about those big skills. I've talked about the empathy. Let's talk about communication now. The most important soft skill of all soft skills. Every other soft skills are built on the ability to communicate clearly and professionally. Communication is more than just sending a message. It's also the ability to receive messages, listen actively, and hear what isn't being said. Sometimes a lot of the communication we receive fall through the cracks because we are focusing on probably what is being said only. A lot of it don't come through the words that we hear. So when you hear the words, when you watch a movie or you receive a training, you receive verbal communication. But there's also the visual aspect of communication that has to do with the body language, as well as the non-verbal communication that has to do with the gestures and the other surrounding activities around how that communication is progressing or moving on. So certain statistics support the fact that non-verbal communication uh, are just as important as verbal communication. In some cases, uh, the communication you are receiving will be higher non-verbal than verbal. So you need to pay attention to how you use your body. Take time to notice your own reaction to others. So there are two ways: how I sit, how I look, the gestures, how I move my hands. Uh, they communicate a lot more than the words that come out of my lips. My consciousness of those is what we're talking about here. How can I learn to become more conscious of those gestures? And also look at what is happening to others when they are listening to me, watching me, or observing me, right? How are they reacting? Can I tell when my message is being passed? I can be talking, I can be presenting, but if it's not being passed, it's not being passed. Okay? And can I observe that? What changes can I make to increase or improve how I'm perceived by those who I'm talking to? People don't often associate listening to communication because it sounds like it's not an action word. Communication is more like, you're communicating, you're trying to pass your thoughts through various means to the minds of another person to instigate or activate an action or activity from that person in line with what you are trying to get the person to do. Fantastic. But you realize that listening is the most powerful way of communicating because communication is two ways. There's one active and there's one passive, right? The passive is the one receiving the message. But that person is no longer passive, the person is now doing what we call active listening. Because at that point, the person is focusing completely on what the speaker is saying, on the speaker's body language and nonverbal cues, and is receiving a perfect understanding of what the speaker is saying. To communicate well, we have to build honesty and openness, relationships where we are transparent with one another. People tend to sense dishonesty. If you hear a comment, you already feel that that comment is going to be an empty promise, for example. It is not going to be fulfilled. Okay. And if you are the type that gives out such comments, such promises, and you don't fulfill them, you are making it more and more difficult for you to communicate in the future. Uh, and then more skills that you need to get better at what you do and get better at your job. Teamwork. Uh, Whether you are a manager who is putting together a team, or you are an individual who is trying to achieve something with a group, You have to understand that each person has different sets of talents, skills, abilities. Okay, what makes a team work effectively is that they have a common goal. Too many people are in teams where they see themselves not contributing to the common goal of the team, but basically watching for errors and faults in other members of the team. So they're basically having their primary goal as a completely distracted goal from the common goal. They see themselves as people who are there to checkmate. And so they end up not contributing to the goal of the team, but to fight each other in the team. Those are very negative traits and very negative, you know, behaviors that create a toxic environment. If you're in a team, try to understand the goals the team is trying to achieve, commit, understand the strengths, weaknesses of each person in the team, including yours. Get a big picture view of what all members of the team are bringing in towards achieving the goal and stay focused on that. So if you have a role to perform, whether in a team or a role you have been assigned in the office as a facility manager, maintenance person, or whatever role you have, you need to find ways to understand what is expected of you, especially from the standpoint of your superiors. All right. So you have those two perspectives where you need to understand what your users and those you are serving expect of you. You need to also understand what your bosses expect of you. Your boss's goals ultimately would align with that of the users or those you are serving. And as such, you will have a unified alignment of understanding of what your role is. Okay. If you have any kind of doubts of the specifics of the roles you've been assigned to, maybe you have a job description that is kind of vague, right? Write down specific tasks that you think relate to every line item in that job description, right? Take it to your boss to say, these are the specific tasks I understand from this job description that I have. These are other tasks that I also perform that are not probably related to this job description I have. Are there other things that I should be working on that are not on this list that I've made? Be proactive about that. Use communication skills because you want to get to the point where you are clear on what your role is and what it is not. Don't try to do good by stepping into certain boundaries, out of certain boundaries, because you lack your understanding of your role. Many people are missing out on salient aspects of their roles. They are not doing them, but they are very busy and active on the items that are outside the boundaries of their role. At the end of the day, when you are going to be appraised, you're not going to be appraised on the things that were not defined for you, even though people enjoyed you doing them. You will end up being appraised on the things you did not do, which were your primary tasks. Okay, so you must learn how your role will be appraised. And then understand the full picture of what the entire organization is trying to achieve. Find out exactly where your role, fits in as a piece in a puzzle. Don't get isolated. Don't work as if I'm doing my own bit and what I am doing is beginning and end in itself. That is a disaster because that takes you away from fully grasping the full picture of what is going on around you. You miss out on that, you won't do what you are doing well. I call this a system way of working, right? Somebody's input to process or throughput to output. That's what you are managing. I get certain inputs, certain reports and data coming. I process them, generate certain other deliverables, serve my clients, the work orders are fulfilled. I fill all that information into a report of what I've done. So the inputs, the the service provider, the technicians, the data that I needed to do my own supervision and management are the inputs. By the time I manage and provide to my customers, get their feedback, I put out my report showing what results I've delivered for my customers. That's my output, right? My input comes from another person's output. In fact, my input is actually someone else's output. When a technician comes to work to deliver on a work order I issue to him, his time, his knowledge, the tools he works with, the job he does for me is an output from him, but it's an input for me in serving my customers. Now, if you have this input, throughput, output mindset, which we call a system thinking approach, you will know that if the input into your system, into your own stage of work in that organization is poor or bad, poor information, wrong data, late delivery, for example, absence of absenteeism from among the staff, people getting sick and injured and stuff like that. Those are their outputs that are becoming the very, very troubling inputs into my own system. I end up having complaints, excuses why things can't be done. I end up trying to beg customers to understand that our situation. I end up saying we could not achieve 100%, we achieve so and so percentage and so on and so forth. So those inputs have ended up ruining my own process and automatically my output. Okay, so if I decide to get isolated and I'm not looking at how those other team members would have good outputs that will become good inputs for me, I would end up in a cycle, which we call, it's a vicious cycle of bad deliverable. And my own output, again, is going to be the input for some other person in my team, in my organization, right? So a bad result from my group, poor result from another group, if aggregated to the regional level or a senior level, is a poor result for the entire organization. And that's what you don't want to be happening, right? So understand the big picture. See end to end. You are just going to be one point in the job that you do. Take, for example, a marketing team. You want to sell a product. Somebody is supposed to design a flyer or a graphics or a web banner, for example. But that person relies on certain surveys and customer research information done by another person, right? That person comes up with personnel that we're going to be targeting, who they are, what kind of features will appeal to them. And then that information goes to another person who develops a content. Okay, so to reach out to this person with this kind of mindset, the kind of content we're going to put together. And then the graphic artist is just waiting. When the person who's developing the content says, "Oh, these are the things we want to do," the graphic artist, "Oh, I'll put in this video in here. I'll put in the words, to express this. I'll put in this image here and there." Now, that graphic artist, if he'd not been part of that process of character and personal definition, content development, and copywriting, to the design he's going to put in, if he didn't care about what those other people are doing before it gets to him, he'll probably just throw up certain image, one graphic type of item that does not have a bearing on the content that has been worked on before it gets to him. And as such, he puts it out. It doesn't get the kind of traction. People are not clicking. People are not coming in. People are not, being interested because the graphics person was disconnected. But of course, that graphic person delivered to a digital marketer who puts it online, and that person is waiting for engagement, is looking out for clicks and all those kind of stuff that goes with marketing. Its result is poor because there was a broken link in that chain. Someone who stayed within his isolated zone did not understand how the processes build up to his own, does not even understand exactly why we are doing what we are doing, because if he knows why we are doing what we are doing, he will know the kind of people that should click and come in and buy our services. And that would affect his work as a graphics artist. All right. So you must not be isolated. You must know what to expect from others, and you must build collaborative relationships. It doesn't help to wait for people to deliver. Be involved in how they deliver. Simple words of encouragement, reminders, and prompts shows that you are proactive and that you are ready to support the people working to bring input into your own space to succeed at what they are doing. So you must be fully immersed in the activity. And to be fully immersed in the activity, you need to find ways to increase continually the quality of the work that you do and also minimize interruptions in your work environment. Some workplaces and some work habits are so distracting that almost everybody end up being unproductive. But there will be problems along the way. Um, so you must also learn to be able to solve problems. You know, uh, whether are big problems, small problems, you need to find ways to solve them. And problem solving skills are part of what we discussed 2 weeks ago, where we looked deeply into. In fact, we had two episodes of the lunch hour where we talked about creative problem solving. And in those lessons, we talked about because if you are the type that when a problem hits you, you just hold on to the problem as an excuse. You don't get your job done. And when somebody asks you why, you have a ready reason. You will not make progress. If your reason is so cogent, I would accept the reason. But I'll still score you zero for achievement, isn't it? So it doesn't help you to have a good enough reason why you did not deliver. And if you think I'll still get paid at the end of the month as a respite for holding on to problems and not delivering on your job or being excellent or increasing your performance, then no problem. A time will come when you will become unemployable naturally. There are so many people that I've worked here for 3 years, I worked here for 5 years, and for 6 months you don't have a job. Why do you think you don't have a job? Is it that all of a sudden nobody needs the skills that you have that you have been using for so long? Well, that might be one of the problems because some skills become obsolete in themselves, right? But if you rise to a certain level where and then you could not maintain your position in that level by you know using professionalism, empathy, and some of these soft skills we're talking about, and you drop, you often wouldn't rise back up again. It becomes a problem because you are now those bad habits that you exhibited, and it was not it didn't hit back at you. You grew in them, you become hardened in them. So when you get dropped at some point and unable to rise, it becomes a big issue. Okay, and problem solving is one area where people have taken excuses, they've not delivered, they've been mediocre in their pursuit of excellence, and they always have very cogent reasons. It will not take you anywhere. It can't bring you back up. If you have a reason, it's fine to have a reason, but of course, that reason uh, also records against you that you did not achieve anything. So, as part of our lessons for problem solving, we said you must first find the symptoms of the problem. We want to define the problem first. What are the larger issues? Sometimes you can be treating the symptoms, and the larger underlying issues, have not been discussed, or you don't know it, right? And then look for alternative solutions. Don't always have one way of solving the problem because that's in itself a problem. Okay, generate alternative solution. Ask others, discuss with your team, generate ideas. Working with a group. It's very important that we uh, don't process issues in silos. The thinking can never be robust enough compared to the thinking of even two people. When it's two good heads are better than one, that's what it means. Have time to engage with a trusted team member, colleague, or an advisor to brainstorm through a problem. But of course, don't go empty-handed. Okay. So we had, if you go back to our previous videos, you'll have a comprehensive, uh, uh, process for solving problems. All right, I'm going to quickly talk about this one. This one is something that affects a lot of people. Uh, so it's linked to, there's not enough time, all the things I'm expected to do, just so much, I'm overwhelmed. It's called time management. Okay. I would rather call it, just like John C. Maxwell said, priority management. The answer we have to maximizing the time we have. Many of us think that we don't have enough time. But the problem is that we don't know how to manage our priorities. That's the problem. The ability to effectively manage your time is key to productivity. You may not be able to create more time. It's impossible to add more time to your 24 hours. But applying time management skills can help you make the most of the time you do have. And one of the ways to do it is start by prioritizing. Prioritize. The things you have to do all can be ranked. Determine what is most important. Allocate resources for the most important one. All right. If you need to work with others, make sure that you key when working with others is required. You have that understanding on what each person's role will be. Very important. That's the first thing. Prioritize. Sometimes the most important things that we have to do are not the pleasant ones. They're not the easy ones. They're not the easy ones. So if you prioritize them to the top of the pile and we want to do them, sometimes they become difficult because you see yourself becoming kind of stuck in the midst of a difficult task. So how do you accomplish? How do you get past that? You schedule, you break that difficult task into piecemeal. So each one can now be performed on its own. It could be something as simple as reading a book, reviewing a proposal, or writing a presentation. Break them down into tasks, run the task, and schedule them. Have time set for each one. Something else that can help manage your time is distractions. Many of us come to work and socialization, social media, phone calls, people bumping on us to ask questions to solve their own problems. Sometimes it's just a cluttered workspace. Your desktop is cluttered, your tabletop is cluttered. And in many instances, you just have this open, we're all friends environment where we just talk anything that comes to our mind. Somebody's watching a skit, it throws the comments in the air. Somebody's reading a news item, it throws the comments in the air. Everybody just keep in a distracted manner in that environment. For you to achieve anything meaningful in your life, you have to be able to manage distractions. Learn to say, I am busy on this now. Can we talk about that? You're trying to bump on me later. Learn to allow your phone to ring and don't pick. You don't have to answer every call. In fact, in your life, there are very few calls that you will need to stop whatever you are doing to pick. Very few calls. Very, very few. Most calls that you pick or answer today are calls that you can return those calls back and be more effective. By the way, if somebody calls you, is the only one prepared for that call, not you. Reverse that. Put yourself in a position of power. Make the call after you have thought through what possibly we want to talk about. You make the call. I missed your call at this time. He says, oh, I'm going to talk about blah, 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 blah. At this time, I'm more prepared than when that call came in the first time because my mood, the work I'm doing and the activity I'm participating in my environment at that moment may not suit the kind of responses that will be best for me on that call. So just allow the call. If you have voicemail, set it up, let it go in there. Do you think you can multitask? I hear about it all the time. I even hear that ladies can multitask more than men and stuff like that. So we try to be doing many things at the same time. If you have divided attention at any time, you do both or two or three things at the same time, you do them all poorly. So instead, work in buckets. Break down your tasks, your various things you have to work on, and put them in different buckets and attend to them with a time frame every time. Okay. So at this point, our lunch hour is ending. I will assure you we're going to continue with this personal and professional productivity improvement session next week. We're not having any holidays on the lunch hour. We're going to keep coming to you Thursday to Thursday. So look forward to another session next week where we continue with attitude and work ethic and so many other things that goes with productive and personal and professional productive life. Thank you, and see you again next week. I know you have questions. Please put the questions on our WhatsApp, Max-Migold training WhatsApp group. That WhatsApp group is a very vibrant group. That's where we engage with you directly. If you put them on Facebook, if you put the questions on, our Twitter handle or LinkedIn page, we're streaming on all of our platforms or Instagram. We will still be able to answer those questions from those platforms. Okay. So thank you and have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.